Afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Can a customer refuse to pay service charges when they dine? A special report. Why parents of students Catherine are raising concerns. And later in sports, Issa Grace Kennedy boys away at the National Stadium. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. Up first, can a customer refuse to pay or dispute service charges when they dine at restaurants? That's the question being asked this afternoon as some customers raise concerns about the imposition of a mandatory service charge at some establishments. Our reporter Sandy Williams has been digging into the issue and now has the second of a two-part report.
Attorney at law Brittany Lee Johnson argues that service charges imposed by restaurants are legal in Jamaica. Therefore, she says customers cannot refuse to pay the fee. According to her, there are several pieces of legislation which monitor the operation of businesses, such as the Fair Competition Act.
When you look at the interpretation section of this act, it defines the word price. So price includes any charge or fee by whatever name called. Now, the reason why this is critical is that when you go to a restaurant, a service charge is made known to you by virtue of the menu. So you will see this baked chicken, rice and peas, and mashed potatoes cost $3,000 plus GCT plus a service charge of, let's say, 10%. So with this disclosure, it goes to the price that is being provided to the customer.
Entrepreneur and business coach Yannick Page says the definition of a service charge lacks clarity.
So there's a school of thought that, what employers should do is to be very precise about whether or not these charges go directly to the people who serve you, or are these charges being imposed by the restaurant owners in order to recover some of their operational costs, which usually is the case.
Ms. Johnson explains mandatory service charges cover the dining experience, which is part of the offerings of establishments. She adds that the charge is usually listed on the menu and receipts.
Customers having this knowledge prior to accepting the offer of the restaurant, right, which is a basic principle in contract law. There is an offer. We are selling you this item for $3,000 plus GCT plus your service charge to dine in our restaurant. You are also made aware when you're paying at the end of consuming whatever you have purchased and after receiving the service. Certainly customers, in my opinion, cannot refuse to pay the service charge.
If it is that the restaurant did not have clearly displayed at the point of entry, and certainly when you are about to order, so before you place your order, if it was not clear to you that there would be a service charge and that this is a mandatory service charge, I'm not clear on how the restaurant is able to recover that cost from you if you do not agree to pay it, right? So a lot of this has to do with the extent to which consumers are informed.
If customers believe they have not received a service that permits the charge, they can seek redress.
Customers can feel free to contact the Consumer Affairs Commission, and they are a body that oversees situations such as this one. And on that basis, a proper and thorough investigation can be carried out to determine if there was some scenario that would warrant a valid refusal of the customer to pay the service charge.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
To other news, parents of students at the Bridgeport Primary School in St. Catherine are contemplating taking their children's safety into their own hands. This after two children were run over at the school gate on Friday. One has succumbed to his injuries. Well, that happened at the weekend. This has plunged the school and the community into further mourning. Herman Green has a report.
8-year-old Dilshan McLean was one of two children hit by a car outside the gate of the Bridgeport Primary School in St. Catherine on Friday. He succumbed to his injuries on the weekend. On Monday, parents, counselors, the police, and political representatives gathered at the school, which is now in mourning. One vendor recounts that Dilshan was assisting another student when the incident occurred.
Boom! And when we look at two child at the side of the gutter, and it seems as if our parents was over there because a lot of children, them say as the two children step up. As it step up, the vehicle just dragged them to the gutter, and that was the end of it.
His parents were inconsolable.
Well, not well, you know. Right now I have sleepless nights, can't eat, can't sleep, uncomfortable, devastated, that's shock.
For other parents, the tragic incident has thrown some glaring problems back into the spotlight.
I feel very bad about the situation, you know. Very bad about the situation because you know the school need to have a proper security at the gate to even cross the kids going across the street there.
The absence of proper fencing and traffic wardens have given rise to a dangerous situation. After Friday's tragedy, the parents are again thinking of taking matters into their own hands.
So that is my suggestion for us to do fundraiser to build the fencing for the school so that we can secure the school and our children. Also, my suggestion is, I notice that we do not have a traffic warden, nobody to cross our kids. So I'm suggesting that as parents, we play our part. And if each of us as parents contribute $50 per child per week, that will assist in paying someone to safely take our children across the street.
Every morning you can see it. My day I see a bike man right coming the road and lick down 2 pit notice already.
So it's not the first?
Not the first.
But just not this.
Someone did. It cost a life.
We put both issues to the school board chairman, Andrew O'Connor. He says government representatives have promised that a fence should be in place in the coming year.
Well, in discussions with our Member of Parliament, Robert Miller, he has informed us that a request was submitted to the ministry for us to get a traffic warden. So we'll be following up on that now in light of what happened on Friday.
So I've spoken to the building officer this morning after I came here, and he's going to give me an update as to where the fencing will be. In terms of warden, that is something that is needed. But at the same time, everyone has a duty of care to ensure that we practice, taking care of everyone that is using the road thoroughfare.
As for the other student in Friday's incident,
well, last we checked, that student is still in critical condition but stable. They're waiting on some results from some tests, but from what we understand, she's stable and doing well.
the driver of the vehicle involved in the incident has been warned for prosecution. Herman Green, TVJ News.
Former Jamaican Ambassador Curtis Ward says Prime Minister Andrew Holness has a lot of questions to answer when he speaks in the House of Representatives this afternoon on the candidacy of Kamina Johnson-Smith for the post of Commonwealth Secretary General. Eyebrows have been raised about Jamaica's decision to nominate a candidate amid claims the Holness administration had agreed to support the re-election of Baroness Patricia Scotland. Ambassador Ward, who was speaking last evening on Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines, says Jamaica's decision is curious given that Mrs. Johnson-Smith attended the CARICOM meeting where the agreement was reached.
The foreign minister sat with and had discussions face to face in Belize a month ago when they agreed to Baroness Scotland. So the Prime Minister has a lot of explanations to make. And I guess in Parliament he's going to explain how he came to the decision, why the rush to make the announcement, considering both he and the Foreign Minister were off the island at the time. So there has to be some other things that are playing into this decision that we don't yet know about.
Ambassador Ward is also questioning whether the Jamaican government is playing into the hands of Britain in challenging Baroness Scotland. One public health expert says more intervention is needed to help students integrate and socialize better in the school setting. Dr. Leslie Mead says part of what experts are now seeing is that a number of the violent cases in schools are from students who have lost out on how to properly socialize.
Where children are not able to resolve conflicts as they ought to. And so it is important that we allow children, as has happened, go back to school, socialize, taught the different norms, and that I think will help.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when you return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. More reactions this afternoon to American reggae band Soulja and their win at the 64th Grammy Awards last Sunday. The group got past a slew of local artists to cop the Best Reggae Album Award with their album Beauty in the Silence. Speaking on the morning agenda on Power 106, Professor of Popular Culture at the University of the West Indies, Donna Hope, says while reggae originated locally, the music has transcended Jamaica for several decades. She says there are more people doing reggae across the world.
Reggae as a category has transcended Jamaica significantly for several decades, and that we do have artists who are not Jamaicans, bands and groups who are not Jamaicans, spreading across the globe, the 5 continents, who are doing what is called reggae and are therefore seen as eligible.
And it's now time for the Business Minute with Cody and Barrett.
In the world of business, Mayberry Jamaican Equities has made $16.4 million in profit for its financial year ending December. In 2020, the company recorded a loss of $28.6 million. Revenues for the period also improved, amounting to $13.9 million. Mayberry says the improved performance was driven by price movements in stocks in its equity portfolio. In business internationally, Sri Lanka's central bank is set to name a new chief as the nation faces its worst economic crisis in over 70 years. The news came after the bank's head offered his resignation on Monday amid mass protests over rising living costs and power cuts. The bank has also postponed an interest rate decision as policymakers try to stabilize the country's currency. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Barrett.
And it's now time for the top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In regional news, several religious bodies in Belize have written to Prime Minister John Bracino urging that a people's referendum be held ahead of the passage of the changes to existing legislation allowing for the decriminalization of marijuana. Possession or use of 10 grams or less on private premises was decriminalized in November 2017. Cabinet has already given its approval to introduce revised legislation that will provide for the control and licensing of the cannabis industry and to establish the necessary legislative framework to govern and regulate the cultivation, processing, distribution, and delivery of cannabis products for adult use only. Williams.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Renardo Brown will have the latest from Champs in your midday sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for your midday sports. We start with football as Dumbeholden are back atop the Jamaica Premier League points table after clipping Veer United 1-0 in their Monday night fixture at Sabina Park last evening. Peter McGregor's 27th minute goal was enough on the night as Dumbeholden moved to 28 points, 2 more than second place Waterhouse. Veer United remained in 9th place. Portmore United and Tivoli Gardens played to a 1-1 draw in the opening game of the doubleheader. Reniki Anderson gave Tivoli Gardens a 14th minute lead before Kenny Charleston equalized for Portmore United in the 44th minute. Now, the 111th staging of the Asa Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships got underway this morning at the National Stadium. We now join reporter Jerome Foster for an update. Now, we'll get back to Jerome Foster there. Now, one corporate era school which will be missing from this year's Asa Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships is St. Andrew Technical, but there is hope for the institution as Stats Trust will be stepping up its investment in the school's track and field program. The trust, which is responsible for the S.W. Isaac Henry Track and Field Development Meet, will look to relaunch the school's athletics program. Now, the school held its virtual run last month, but will have a patron event on Sunday where participants can submit their results from various physical activities on the Stats Trust website. It will be the second year the trust will be hosting the fundraiser to help the school's sports program. In basketball, unbeaten teams St. George's College and Jamaica College will square off in the ISA Under-19 basketball final after semi-final victories on Monday over at Jamaica College. The host led by 22 points from Dakar Nicholson along with 19 points and 40 rebounds from Kimani Phillips gave them a 78-65 win over Kingston College. Jaquan Freeman, 24 points, and Mark Madikai Clark, 15 points, led the scorers for Kingston College. Meanwhile, over at Kingston College, St. George's College held off Campion College for a 72-61 victory. St. George's led the game from start to finish, which was spearheaded by Joshua Jackson's 26 points and Kevon Gale's 19 points and 18 rebounds. Now we go back to our earlier story as the 111th staging of the Asa Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships got underway this morning at the National Stadium. And we join Jerome Foster now for an update.
Thank you, Renato. You join us in the midst of the boys Class 1 400 meters. Earlier, Gregory Prince, one of the favorites, if not the favorite for the event, he was also easy in qualifying. He ran 46.62 seconds to win the first heat here at the National Stadium.
And they're away cleanly. This is heat 1 of 7 in the Class 1 boys, 400 meters. Gregory Prince already making good running with that speed. Going up the backstretch now, it's Prince of St. Jago in the middle of the track in the green and gold strip. Dennis, the Western champ, is struggling at the moment to keep pace with the nippy start from Gregory Prince. So Prince of St. Jago in command, in control, and Gregory Prince of St. Jago marching on now, and he knows the task at hand. He hasn't lost sight of the goal. Dennis has come into second, but Prince has eased off, but tried not to lose his shape too much. 46.61 is the flash time.
In Class 3, Samuel Creary, he was the lead qualifier. He returned 52 seconds flat.
Sent off now for heat 3 of 5 for the Class 3 boys 400 meters. Jamaica College's Samuel Creary, 51.71 seconds he took into this event. And is the favorite. From William Knibb, we have Jabari Matheson in business early as well. Calabar's Lindo is also moving comfortably at this stage. Look at the battle now in the middle of the pack between JC and William Knibb in the shapes of Creary and Lindo, or Creary and Matheson respectively. Those two will spring off the top bend. Creary from Jamaica College takes command now. Matheson of William Knibb is trying to fight back. Calabar's Lindo is trying to come on late. But Samuel Creary of Jamaica College gets there ahead of Calabar's.
Meanwhile, in the girls section, Abigail Campbell of Fern Court High, she was a Class 3 champion last year at the National Championship. She ran 54.70 seconds to be the lead qualifier for the girls Class 2 400 meters.
Set. That's the first heat of the Class 2 400.
Small field headed by Abigail Campbell of Fern Court High, the fastest girl in Class 2 this year. 53.92, the reigning Class 3 champion from last year. And the current Carifta Trials under 17 champion. And she already has closed it down. Whatever marginal ascendancy those on her outside had at the start. And it's all about Abigail Campbell now of Fern Court High. Gave Fern Court its first gold medal at champs last year, first in over 20 years. That was some sort of achievement as Abigail Campbell spins off the final curve now and heads for home quite comfortably. Rashika Byfield, another young talent from Lacovia, is chasing. Here comes Homewood's Cameo White, but Abigail Campbell of Fern Court takes them home.
And in Class 3, Rosalie Gallimore of Homewood Technical, the former champions, she sped to 55.81 seconds to lead all the qualifiers in the girls 400 meters.
So the Class 3 girls in the 400 meters sent about their business. Full field, and Homewood's Rosalie Gallimore comes in with the best time, 55.87. And it's Gallimore very, very prominent down the backstretch at the moment. On the outside from Vertec, that's Williams. Trying to make a race of it at this stage, but it's all about Rosalie Gallimore of Homewood Technical. Best time coming in 55.87. The top 2 in each heat plus the next 6 best times will move into the next round as Rosalie Gallimore of Homewood Technical, very, very comfortable and not exerting too much, has this one well in command and comes home quite comfortably. Gallimore of Homewood Technical finishing ahead of Brianna Brown of Excelsior.
So those are the completed events so far here on day 1 of the Easter Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships. Later on this evening, in the boys 100 meters, we will see Brian Lavelle as well as DeAndre Daly of Herbert Morrison, the Clayton twins from Edwin Allen, as well as the Storming Brianna Liston from Hydel High. Back to you, Ronaldo.
Thanks, Jerome Foster, with that report. And that's it for your Midday Sports Report. Giovanni, it's back to you.
Exciting stuff already, Renardo. I couldn't help but feeling the excitement, 2 years since COVID and seeing something like this again. Your thoughts?
Yeah, brilliant so far. 70% of the stadium capacity, which means that you're thinking about 20,000 fans. Saturday, the big day, but the 100-meter finals on a Wednesday, that's something to look forward to.
Indeed, indeed. Well, that's it for the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.